Yeah, we've got this great audio adaptation summary, Hobbit's Grand Adventure. And another source, too, talks about how people access stories like this now, audiobooks, podcasts, that sort of thing.
Exactly. Shows like this one.
Right? It just shows how these stories stick around.
Absolutely. So our mission, our deep dive today, is really unpacking this Hobbit's journey, Bilbo, exploring how he went from this quiet, peaceful life,
Very peaceful, second breakfast and all that.
right, to traveling through wild lands, facing, deadly foes, and finding this courage he just never knew he had. We'll follow his transformation, look at those key moments, and try to understand why this, well, seemingly simple story resonates so deeply.
Okay, so our sources, they start us off with Bilbo Baggins. He's a hobbit, living a quiet life in the Shire. Cozy home dug into the earth, you know the type. Life's calm, predictable. Tea, books.
Second breakfast. Can't forget that.
Definitely can't forget second breakfast. It's
Mhm.
all about comfort and routine. And that baseline is, well, it's important for what comes next.
Because that predictability, it doesn't last, does it?
Not at all.
The change comes with Gandalf, this mysterious figure, tall, robed, long beard.
Piercing eyes, unknown wanderer, knows about old times, magic.
And then, bam.
Yeah.
Suddenly, Bilbo's quiet little hobbit hole is just overrun. 13 dwarves show up.
Stout, bearded guests, Thorin Oakenshield and his company, and they're on a mission.
A huge mission. Reclaim their homeland, their treasure, from this dreadful beast. A dragon.
And what's really fascinating here, is Bilbo's reaction. First, he's absolutely against it, totally reluctant.
Understandably.
Right, but then he agrees, and even he doesn't seem quite sure why. Our sources mention maybe curiosity or like an echo of the more adventurous ancestors.
The Tookish side.
Exactly, the Tookish side. And this decision, it just sets the stage for everything. A journey so far from his comfort zone. Forests, mountains, ancient ruins. The complete opposite of his life.
And the journey, well, it starts rough. Really rough.
Oh, yeah.
One of the first big things they face. Our sources talk about these 3 trolls.
Oh, right, large, dim-witted brutes, as the source puts it.
And they nearly became dinner.
Very nearly. But it was this mix of wit, confusion, lucky timing. Gandalf played a big part there.
Right, tricking them until dawn turned them to stone. And they even got some loot out of it. Weapons from the trolls' hoard.
Which brings up a point, what actually turns this cozy hobbit into someone who can face danger. One of those weapons was a short sword. Bilbo names it Sting later on.
Sting, yeah.
And the sources highlight it wasn't just a weapon. It becomes this symbol of his growth, his developing awareness. It even glows near goblins.
Like an early warning system. A reflection of his own developing. Well, Sting.
Exactly. It mirrors his own growing resolve.
So after that close call with the trolls, they find some peace for a bit.
Yeah, a breather. They reach Rivendell, this hidden elven refuge, peaceful valley.
Run by Elrond.
Right. And they get help there, shelter, food, but also guidance. Elrond looks at their map.
And finds hidden writing?
Moon runes, yeah. Secret writing that only shows up under the right moon, and it points to a hidden door on the mountain they're heading for.
Crucial information. More of an intellectual win that time, not just scraping by.
Definitely vital for the quest. But that safety, it's temporary. Next up, the Misty Mountains.
A huge obstacle.
Massive, and a terrible storm hits. They duck into a cave for shelter, or what looks like a cave.
But it wasn't.
Nope. Goblin trap. They get captured by these creatures of the dark, and in all the chaos that follows, trying to escape, Bilbo gets separated, lost, alone.
And this is where it gets really, really interesting for Bilbo himself, right? Deep down in the dark.
Absolutely pivotal. He's lost underground, and first he finds a ring, just lying there.
Just finds it. Okay.
And then he encounters Gollum, this strange, pale creature obsessed with the ring, his precious...
Vellum. And they have this riddle contest.
A game of wits, yeah, high stakes. Bilbo's life depends on it. And he wins. Through quick thinking, maybe a bit of luck.
But he also discovers the ring's secret.
He does. He realizes Gollum's secret weapon, his precious, is this ring, and it makes you invisible.
Wow. So he uses it to get away.
He does. Slips it on, escapes unseen. But, this whole encounter, finding the ring, it's more than just an escape plan. Our sources kind of hint at this. The ring has this deeper power, maybe a bit darker.
For Bilbo, it's useful. Invisibility.
But it also introduces this element of secrecy, deception almost, which is new for Bilbo. He's usually very honest.
So it changes him, subtly.
It's definitely a turning point, sets up so much more, obviously. He rejoins the dwarves, shaken, but Different, braver, maybe,
Right.
but also keeping this huge secret.
Okay, so he uses the ring to get out of the goblin tunnels.
Hmm.
But the danger isn't over. Not by a long shot.
No, straight out of the frying.
Into the fire.
Literally. Almost. They escape the goblins, only to run into wargs, these vicious wolves, and the goblins are right behind them.
Yeah, he cornered.
Yeah, chased up into trees. Things look really bad.
Yeah.
Until rescue comes from, well, way up high.
The great eagles.
The eagles swoop down, grab them, carry them off. A classic some kind of moment, almost. Shows how desperate things were.
So where do the eagles take them?
To safety, for a time. They end up near the home of Bjorn.
Ah, Bjorn. Skin changer.
Exactly. This really powerful, kind of mysterious figure who can turn into a massive bear. Our sources suggest he's drawn from old folklore. He gives them food, rest, and crucial advice for the next leg.
Which is?
Mirkwood, the giant, dangerous forest.
An Mirkwood is bad news.
Big time. Once vibrant, apparently, but now it's twisted, dark, enchanted, in sinister ways.
Easy to get lost.
Very easy. And they do. They lose the path, run out of food, and then giant spiders.
Yeah, spiders.
Poisonous ones. They capture the dwarves, wrap them up. But this is where Bilbo, he really steps up.
Using Sting and the ring.
Yes. He fights them off, cuts the dwarves free. It's a major moment. The sources say he was no longer just a tag-along. He properly earns their respect here. Real courage, real resourcefulness.
But they get captured again after all that.
Yep. Mirkwood's just relentless. This time, it's the Wood Elves.
The elves who live in the forest. Not like Rivendell elves.
No, more suspicious, maybe a bit wilder. They live in these grand halls underground, and they capture the dwarves. Not Bilbo, though.
Because of the ring?
Exactly, invisibility. And his cleverness comes through again. He figures out a way to rescue them all.
The barrels.
The barrel escape. Pure genius, really. Hides them all in empty wine barrels being sent down the river, floats them right out of the elves' kingdom to freedom. Just shows how this small hobbit can outwit powerful foes.
Incredible. So after Mirkwood, after the spiders and elves,
Mm-hmm.
they must be close.
They are. Finally, after all this time, all these dangers, they reach the lonely mountain, Erebor.
Their destination.
Mm.
And the sources describe it as?
Vast, desolate. The air feels heavy, like with ancient danger. You feel the dragon's presence.
Smog.
Smog, deep inside in these massive stone halls filled with treasure, sleeps this terrible creature. Massive, ancient, fire-breathing dragon, the one who stole the dwarves' kingdom.
And Bilbo. He's the one who has to go in.
He's the burglar, after all. That's his role. Now truly established. So yes, he creeps inside alone.
Facing a dragon. Alone. That's terrifying.
Absolutely. Sneaking past these huge piles of gold, gems. He has a couple of encounters with Smog, actually. Very tense conversations.
And during one of those, he notices something important.
He does. Through sheer nerve, really sharp observation, he spots it. A weak spot. A patch on Smog's underside near his left breast that isn't covered in scales and jewels.
Just a small bare patch.
Tiny detail, but it turns out to be absolutely crucial.
Because Smog eventually finds out their bait, right? He gets angry.
Furious, he realizes a cup has been stolen from his hoard. He flies out in a rage, attacks Lake Town, the human settlement nearby built on the water.
But someone there fights back.
Bard the bowman, a brave defender. And here's where Bilbo's discovery pays off.
How?
A thrush, a bird, had overheard Bilbo talking about the weak spot earlier.
No way.
Yes, and this thrush flies down and tells Bard. So Bard, guided by this crucial bit of intelligence from Bilbo, aims his special black arrow.
And hits the weak spot.
Right in the vulnerable patch. Smog is killed, falls from the sky, destroys much of Lake Town in the process, but the dragon is defeated.
Wow. So Bilbo's observation, relayed by a bird, is what brings down the dragon. It really shows how small things matter.
Exactly. It wasn't brute force, but information, observation, Bilbo's key contribution.
So the dragon's dead, the mountain's free, happy ending.
Well, not quite yet. Victory is achieved, but peace. That's another story.
What happens?
Greed. Simple as that. The dragon's hoard is immense, unimaginable wealth, and it stirs up trouble.
How so?
Other dwarves arrive, led by Thorin's cousin Dane from the Iron Hills. The humans from the ruined lake town come seeking compensation, help to rebuild, and an army of the wood elves shows up too.
So everyone wants a piece of the treasure.
Pretty much. What should have been a celebration turns into this tense standoff. Dwarves barricaded inside the mountain, humans and elves outside. It's a really powerful comment on how gold can corrupt.
And Bilbo's caught in the middle of this. What does he do?
Okay, so Bilbo, he's just weary of all the fighting and greed. He sees how pointless it is, so he does something incredibly brave and maybe a bit reckless.
What's that?
He secretly takes the Arkenstone, this magnificent gem, the heart of the mountain, the thing Thorin wants most, and gives it to Bard and the Elven King.
To try and force a negotiation.
Yes.
End the standoff.
Exactly, to use it as a bargaining chip for peace. But Thorin, he sees it as the ultimate betrayal. He's furious with Bilbo.
So it almost backfires.
Yeah.
Leads to more conflict.
It almost does. Tensions are at breaking point. Thorin might have even attacked the humans and elves,
Yeah.
but then something else happens. Something worse.
Worse than dwarves fighting elves and humans.
Yeah. An army of orcs and wargs from the mountains, alerted by the eagles maybe, or just drawn by the scent of war, descends on them all.
Goblins and wolves again. A common enemy.
A common enemy forces an unlikely alliance. What follows is the battle of 5 armies.
Humans, elves, and dwarves against the orcs and wargs.
A huge, desperate clash. And the cost is heavy. Very heavy. Thorin fights bravely, leads the charge, but he's mortally wounded.
Oh no, after everything.
Yeah. But on his deathbed, there's this really poignant moment. He calls for Bilbo.
And what does he say?
He makes peace with him. He acknowledges Bilbo's wisdom, his good heart. He realizes Bilbo was right, that friendship and loyalty matter more than gold. He apologizes. It's a powerful lesson.
Wow. That's quite a resolution for Thorin.
It is a tragic but important end to his arc.
So after the battle, after Thorin's death, what happens with Bilbo? Does he take a share of the treasure?
He could have. He was offered a very generous share, but he declines most of it.
Really? After all that?
Yeah. He takes just a couple of small chests, enough to be comfortable. He returns home to the Shire with Sting, his sword, maybe a few keepsakes, and
The ring.
the ring. Still a
Yeah.
secret.
And that phrase, there and back again. That's really the heart of it, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's the subtitle of the book for a reason. He went there, faced unimaginable things, and came back. But he wasn't the same.
How so?
Well, physically, his pockets weren't much heavier, but his spirit, his understanding of the world, of himself, completely changed. He gets back and finds chaos.
Chaos. Back in the peaceful Shire.
Yeah, he'd been gone so long, everyone assumed he was dead. They were auctioning off all his belongings from his hobbit hole.
Oh my goodness.
Right. But even dealing with that, he's content. The sources really emphasize this. The simple things, the sound of his kettle, the wind in the grass outside his door, those comforts mean more now. More than gold, more than fame. He appreciates home because he left it and faced danger.
So the journey wasn't really about the treasure at all.
Not for Bilbo, no. It was about discovering what was inside him, that inner richness.
So wrapping this up, what's the big takeaway? What does this deep dive tell us? The story ends with this humble hobbit, back where he started, but utterly transformed.
Yeah, there and back again.
From the smallest, most comfort-loving folk comes this incredible bravery. He never sought greatness, but it found him anyway.
And his heroism wasn't about, muscles or grand plans. It was wit, compassion, seeing things others didn't.
And just having the quiet courage to do what felt right, even when it was terrifying or unpopular, like with the Arkenstone.
Exactly. And this dive into his journey, it really highlights how sometimes adventure just finds you, even when you're perfectly comfortable. And that true courage, it often comes out not in some big heroic speech, but just responding to the challenge in front of you with whatever you've got, your wits, a small sword.
Or noticing a tiny patch on a dragon's chest.
Precisely.
And that transformation you mentioned is key. He starts as this creature of habit, pure predictability. And he ends as someone who understands home, not just because it's predictable, but because he knows what's outside it. He values its simple comforts after facing the world.
That contrast makes all the difference.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What quiet bravery, what hidden potential might be inside each of us, just waiting for some unexpected push. What seemingly small detail or observation or act of quiet courage might turn out to be the most vital thing in your own grand adventure, whatever that might be.